Yeah, it's good. So, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here after last night. So, I know it's an effort. So, thank you so much for that. So, this is an open session. I think it's going to be on YouTube and stuff. So, if you want to check it afterwards, thank you. Okay, so today I will be talking about Studio Gem that we run at Lab 42 and specifically about how to empower your team through creativity. What do I mean by this? I think we all need to create a psychological safe space for people to develop, and this was what I wanted to do with this Studio Gem and prove that other studios can do it as well. And yeah, just let's see. Okay, so about me. So I joined Lab 42 in May 2019. I'm graduated in video games design, and then I did a master's in video games enterprise production and design. I worked in titles such as Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, World of Pro Fishing Tour, Spider Malice, Alien Isolation, Human Fall Flat, Call of Duty Vanguard, but I'm not here to talk about myself. So other things that I like to do, talk about culture, narrative, design, and social impact in games. I'm a big nerd for social impact in games, so if you want to talk about that, I'm here. So yeah. Cool, but let's talk about the Studio Gem then, and how the hell did this started. So there was this thing going on, as you know, in Sumo, everyone is able to run game jams every now and then. So I kind of proposed yay, we should do one in Lab 42. We are kind of running behind the other studios, and we have great people, amazing ideas here. So let's do it. And then talking to my line manager, I think we both liked the idea a lot, and we liked it so much that we made it one of my objectives. And I was like, oh no, I really need to do it. So it was really, really scary. But one of the things was how do we make this a Lab 42 experience? How do we make this different? And how do we make people engage with this game jam in a different way from the rest of the studios? So after a lot of thinking, I was trying to understand, okay, so what can we do differently? So the Game Jam definition, for those of you here, I assume everyone knows, but it's an event where the participants try to make a video game from scratch. And depending on the format, the participants might work independently or in teams. Usually these events run from 24 to 72 hours. So I was like, nah, this is not good for Lab 42. We can stop the studio for 2 days or 3 days, and we want to do something bigger. And how do we harvest the sense of let's do something different and let's involve the whole studio on it? So this is wow. So let's do a Studio Jam. And what the hell is a Studio Jam? So it's pretty much Lab 42 coming together, spending their time together, and making a game. Easy. So now, let's go over it. So Studio Jam is an event where the participants try to make a game from scratch. Everyone involved is working towards the same game idea, and the event runs during a full month. So this would open up space for everyone in Lab 42 to participate, not only because most of people don't have time during their core hours. If they wanted to engage after work hours, they could. If they wanted to use their learning days, they could. And yeah, that's what we did. We kind of run it that way. So yeah, amazing. We know what we're doing. Full month, everyone in Lab 42 can engage whenever they want, drop in, do stuff. Wow, amazing, we're gonna do this. All set, let's go. So the Studio Jam, how did we decide what to create? So firstly, we cannot do a Studio Jam without engaging on people. If we want to harvest people's confidence in what they're doing, if we want to get the best out of them, we need to get the data from them, right? So that's how this started. We started to make a big survey throughout Lab 42, where we started to understand how would be the engagement? Who would actually be the core audience for our Studio Jam? Because this was not a mandatory event at all. You could participate if you wanted to or not, completely up to you. So yeah, we did this survey, and yeah, everyone that answered pretty much wanted to participate or at least be in the roundtables or have some input on it, which was really important for us. So then there were a lot of questions what do you want to do? Is this a 3D game? Is this a 2D game? What do you want the art style to be? And then we went okay, if we are doing this, which kind of game would you like to do? Would this be an adventure game, a fantasy, a sci-fi simulation, cartoonish? And then we went what matters to you the most? Is this core gameplay, innovation, game, the genre itself? What do you want to do? And then based on that, we came up with this. which we call the Game Jam pillars. So based on all that data and a few more that I'm not sharing here today because it was really exhaustive, we got to these 4 pillars. So narrative, evolving world, the art style, and co-op. So what Lab482 wanted to do was something that was engaging in a narrative way, which was really, really nice. People wanted to work on something that was evolving, so where the world was constantly changing and, you know, moving forwards, and where the player could like actually impact the stuff that was happening in there. People wanted to do like a stylized version of this game, or the game needed to be like stylized in a way, and co-op and creating meaningful experiences to gameplay with other players was important for Lab482. So what did we do afterwards? So we created a pitch template. We sent it out to the team. Everyone that was like trying to participate on the game jam could submit an idea. It was completely open. There was 12 submitted ideas. So yeah, a lot of people tried to put their ideas forward, which was really, really nice. This is one of the most important takeaways from this presentation, because after people have like, you know, made a full survey and they said like what they wanted to do, the game ideas were not matching at all what they said they wanted to do, which is quite interesting from my perspective. We went through a voting phase as a team, and we used roundtables to discuss like the main ideas and try to understand what we wanted. We got to a point where it was quite like, we knew what we wanted to do. There were 2 top games, and people wanted stuff from both of those, which was really, really nice. And by discussing and harvesting, like, you know, that place where people could go in, drop in, just say, okay, so what are we doing? We were having these sessions pretty much like daily. We had them throughout a week just to combine the 2 ideas or try to understand what the game was. And then at the end of it, yeah, okay, so we are combining X with Y, and we're doing this. So what the hell did we do? This is insane. Prepare yourselves. So the prototype. So we did a small game called No Vacancy, which is, yeah, it's a murder sim. You will understand this. So it's top-down management murder sim, where you drag and hide bodies to clean the scene. Yes, this is all like really according to the pillars, as you can see. You would like expand the motel and add new parts to it, and the hotel would evolve. Like if you wanted a different like style to it, if you wanted to do like something in the 50s, you could. If you wanted to do something more futuristic, you could. This was heavily influenced by Psycho. We decided to start with the 60s setting and then evolve from there. And the game would run in day-night cycles, and you would have like, during the day, you would like put the clients in places and, you know, check them in, clean the hotel and all that kind of stuff. And during the night, you would start like killing them and then hiding the bodies if you could. And then, yeah, maintain your murderer's mother happy. I think that was the main goal. You would have like this big thing, which was mother's love. And yeah, your mother was pretty much like, yeah, you need to kill more people for me to be happy and stuff. So yeah. I do have a small video of the prototype that I'm going to show after this. So what did we do by week? So as I said, like the game jam was run like during a full month. So we had like kind of 5 weeks of development. During week 1, we kind of did like the define of the game. We did like a first level design pass to it. We added a playable character, controls. We started building an AI for the guests because we had a ton of programmers joining in, and everyone was like, we need a full AI system for the guests. And they will be like, I want to go there, and I want to like eat, and I want to, I don't know, I want to dance in the ballroom if I can. So yeah, we were trying to use as best as we could of the people that we had in the game jam. So yeah, it was cool, and you know, trying to build like the features and stuff around the availability of them as well. So yeah, so week 2 we added the main menu, check-in. You could check in the clients. We can start killing people. Oh my god, this hurts. This hurts me so much every time I need to say this. But yeah, we added like, we had some artists in the studio jam as well, so we started adding like some models to it. We added the basic AI for the clients and the blood splatter system. Then we were like playing through it and we're like, this is so clunky, like this is not working at all. So we continued to refine, the AI was improved, we continued to add things as we went. We added cleaning mechanics so that you could clean your hotel by day and all that kind of stuff. We added a new level pass because the level design was also not working. And yeah, we continued to go in. So on week 4 of prototype, we added like the final art in, the lights in. We added the journal where you could check like what was the actual like intent of your mother, what you needed to do, what are the objectives per day, and all that kind of stuff, which added some more fun to the game. I think the most important thing to say about like the way this went is that this was a month, right? And everyone was putting in their effort like on a daily basis almost, and they were still doing their jobs. But I'll get there in a second. But this is really, really, really nice. How did we pivot every week? Pretty much like we were like, no, every week on Mondays we will get together and we will check the build, how the build is, and just change accordingly, really. And it was like an open talk for everyone that wanted to chip in and say, I think the system is not working okay. And you could put like the questions that you wanted in, and they would be listened, they would be pulled like on an Excel, and everyone could check them and say, okay, I think this is an important question, and then we would go from there and continue to pivot. So yeah, this is a game. I was told that this might not work, so let me check. It is working. It is really ugly. But yeah, so this was our hotel with our little psycho in. You could see the rooms and everything. You can see the clients starting to check in. You could check the rooms and people to the rooms and stuff. And you can see the things. You can also kill people and do all that, but I'm gonna skip that part, okay? Okay, so takeaways part 1. So the surveys are a great idea when you want to decide what you want to do with your team and for your team. Use them in an anonymous way. It's the best way to get the honest feedback that you are looking for. So if you ever want to do something within your teams, please do, or try to use an anonymous service in the sense of people will be more honest that way. So you will get the data that you are looking for. Secondly, people might not make the choices thinking about the future, but what they feel in the moment. What do I mean by this? Even though, as you could see, like the game jam pillars were like narrative, evolving world. We want to do like this cool art style thing, and we want it to be a co-op experience. None of that was reflected in the picked idea. I think like there is a lot of reasons for why this happened, to be honest. And I don't think people, when you think about a game jam, we all go in and think, right, so this will be small, this will be a condensed experience. So we need to think and vote, thinking on what we can do. And sometimes you shouldn't do that. Sometimes you should go for what you actually want to do. And then there might be a chance that that game might continue onwards. Yeah? So just have that in mind if you want to do a studio jam. So yeah, that data can be used to shape the future projects and culture for your teams and your studio. Because you might, you know, the people in your studio might tell you openly what they think and what they want by those kinds of data. So yeah, how was it run? The process. So people could take up any discipline they wanted. Even though you were a producer or a programmer, you could do audio, you could do art. And that happened. We had a programmer that did like the full art for this game. We had another programmer that said like, no, I want to be an artist for a month. I was like, okay, let's go. Which is really, really interesting. So a lot of those models were actually done by people that were not from their disciplines, which is really interesting. And we had some other people that were like mentoring during that month and saying, hey, if you want to do the model this way, this is how you do it, and put it in tutorials together, which kind of harvested the sense of, you know, safety and more culture to the studio and people working together and collaborating. The catch-up meetings per discipline were run daily, so we had daily stand-ups for each of the disciplines so that people could check up and see what they were doing. It was run fully agile, of course. We had a big team review every Monday where the results of the previous week would be discussed and turned into actions to the following week, which was really, really good. This was the meetings that I was referring to earlier, like everyone could chip in and say, I don't think it's working, or maybe we should address this, and we would all discuss it together, which was a big part of it. And then embrace the change as it goes. It's a prototype, have fun. So yeah, it's not the original idea. I think we all know that, and games need to change as it goes. And yeah, everyone had a voice, which was really important for us. So how do we harvest creativity? Using processes to create space for people to step up. I think this is one of the key things that we need to work out as producers most of the times, and is to make sure that we are building the processes, like using the processes to, highlight and lift the people instead of just like putting the processes, because I use this process on another project and this works really well. Therefore, I'm going to use this again. Sometimes we can do that. We need to check, like, is this team the same? What is the composition of this team? Maybe there's other things that we can use with them. So having that in mind is really, really important, and use the processes and the strategies you already know to lift them up. Don't use the same process over and over again, because it might not work. Then giving people ownership of areas for development, like, because this is something basic for production, but at the same time, it's really important to trust the people, especially when they're working on their free time. So it's like, no, everyone was like, I want to take AI, okay, and on the AI, what do you want to do? I want to do this. And someone else was like, I can help you on that. So people gradually started taking ownership of the things by themselves, which is really nice. So the engagement itself. So as I said, we did a few roundtables when we started the Game Jam to decide how would we run this. So we had 2 design roundtables to decide the idea, and then we had the code roundtable, 2 code roundtables, and an art roundtable. What we did during those meetings was pretty much decide the future of the game, or like what we wanted to do with it. This was like the most first step we did before we even started the Game Jam, right after the survey. So this gave us a lot of insight of like how many people would be in the Game Jam working and what they would be doing. So it was really good to shape the game in that sense. So the Studio Jam attendance. So we had a few participants, as you can see. 9 of them were working on their free time. 7 of them were working part-time, what are called part-time, 2 of them full-time, and 3 of them used learning days. What does this mean? So free time means that all of those people were checking in after work or before work just to work on the Game Jam because they wanted to. Part-time means sometimes there's people that were working on other projects and the projects were slow for some reason at that point, or they were in bug fixing phases or waiting for results, and that's what that stands for. 2 people were working full-time. 1 of them just joined our studio, or 2 of them just joined our studio. So it was like the way of them ramping up to the studio, which was good. And 3 people decided to use most of their learning days to help on the Game Jam, which is also nice. So attendance per team catch-up, what do I mean? This is like weekly. The amount of people that we would have on those feedback sessions that we were doing. So on the first week, we had like around 23 people. On the second week, we had 19 people. On the third week, we had 15. On the fourth, we had 15 again, or around 15. It was kind of like that, But yeah, which was really, really nice as well. When you have, because when you run like a Game Jam during a full month, and you have people like continuously, going in and coming back each week, and even though they have their work and they continue to go in and take off their time to chip in an idea for the studio, it's really good. So takeaways part 2. People will give from their own time if they feel like they are making a change for your company. People are looking to engage within your company, so take it. Second, people are eager to learn, even outside of their areas of work, like programmers doing art, programmers doing music, designers helping with implementation of UI in Unity. People want to learn, so take that as an advantage. And they can also help shape the future of your company. If you start like understanding what, how the people operate and what they want to do, it's quite easy to take their input and check what's happening and how can you move forwards with it. So feedback from the participants. So at the end of it, I decided to run another survey to understand like what was going on. Was this good for you? Was this not good for you? Is this even worth doing again? What do you think? And did you enjoy participating in the Studio Jam? Yes, which was cool. And then what did you think about the duration of the jam? Too short? I was like, a month too short, really? I don't know. And then about the right length, and about 30% of people thought it was too long. Would you participate in a future Game Jam or Studio Jam held by Lab 42? Hell yeah. We did something right. Would you prefer a studio or a regular Game Jam? Most of people said Studio Jam, which is really interesting. Would you like to see No Vacancy move forward as a Lab 42 project? Yes. I think this one is an interesting one because I have this feeling that if we do something different or a different studio jam, I think the engagement will be the same. Because when you put your heart and soul into something, you want to see it move forward. This doesn't mean that, again, this is the game that people at Lab 42 want to make. Would you like to continue working on No Vacancy if it becomes a project? Yes. And the overall rating for the studio jam was 4.1. So what did we learn? We managed to get a prototype. Yay! Even like with no team assigned to it whatsoever, we got there, which is really cool. People's engagement was high throughout, as you could see on the graphs. Like we had at least like 15 people every week coming back and saying they wanted to give their input to this game, which is really, really good. The team was excited to work on something from the ground up. The open feedback sessions made people feel heard and like they had a strong input on the project, which was exactly what we wanted. Takeaways for the future. This kind of event made a big morale jump for the participants of the Studio Jam at Lab 42. I think everyone that, or most of the people that worked at the Studio Jam went to see another Studio Jam and they were so excited for it. Sometimes I have some people asking me, when is the next Studio Jam? I'm like, I don't know. so yeah, that's good. Use the data to decide on a genre or a basic world rules instead of a full open idea submission. It's one of my biggest takeaways. What do I mean by this? We already have the data of what people want to build. So you can still formulate a basic world around it and then pitch that back to the people so that they can fill in the world. I think that would be one of the next steps by running a Studio Jam. It's already having that world in place and saying, right, so this will be the setting this time or whatever. Can be kind of open to discussion, but we know like it's an action adventure game or whatever, it's on the data. The picked idea is not representative of the survey results or the type of game that people would like to do. Use the feedback survey done initially to gauge like types of games or our dev community at Lab 42 would like to do in the future. So yeah. Overall, people enjoyed being part of the game jam and brought people together to work on something bigger by their own initiative, which I think is like the biggest thing we can do. What did I learn? I need to manage my expectations during development. What do I mean by this? So after seeing the full scope of the data we had for what people wanted to do, and then the submitted ideas, I was so engaged when I saw the data. I was like, yes, this is exactly the kind of games we should be doing because it's my own personal preference, right? And then when I saw the submitted ideas, when what people were going for, I was like, oh no, what's happening? So I need to learn better how to manage that. But I think I kind of did a good job, like separating what I thought was like the game that we should be doing and what people wanted to do. Because if this experience was about them, not about me, well, that's what we need to do at this point. And then production steer is really important when you are designing a game on the fly, in the sense of I was the only producer working on the game jam with the people, and I was trying to put back questions to everyone so that we could better understand where the game was going. We didn't have like any senior designers involved on this at all either, so it gave a lot of it fell on me to ask the right questions back, or at least to try to understand better the vision of that game and help people like understanding what they wanted to take out of it. And then see the potential and take the learnings. I think we should all be learning constantly and evolving as human beings. So yeah. I have a ton of time for you to ask any questions that you might like. So thank you so much for listening to me today.
Howdy, how you doing?
I'm good,
well
thank
done,
you.
By the way, it was really awesome to see how you guys handled the game jam via a studio game jam as well, too, getting everybody involved on one project. Now, on that note, with it being one project, and seeing how it ended up versus the poll results that you had,
Yeah.
do you feel like maybe some personalities within the team might have had more influence, which, you know, even though we you know, everybody got involved, maybe sometimes, especially with juniors, they might not, even though they say they had a say, how much of that say was really, valid to what was actually coming out of the game?
That's a great question. I think like it's really hard to balance personalities whilst development. I think that's a thing, and we need to be really really careful with it. If I think it was balanced out like in the perfect way, not at all. Of course not. I do think like the fact that you have like different round tables and check-ins every day with everyone, it was really good. I think a takeaway for the future is to bring like some of the processes that we do on our projects as well, and maybe having regular one-to-ones with some people or having like catch-ups with smaller people is the best way to go, especially with juniors, because we want to make sure their engagement is still high. I tried to do that as much as I could during the game jam process, but I'm pretty sure I failed in some way because, yeah, it's not
It's
not
hard
possible.
when it's just one person handling everything as well too. I
Exactly.
agree.
So, yeah.
Hello, I'm Rob, franchise director in Sheffield.
Hi, Rob.
I'm curious what the objectives were when you started this. Was it to bring the team together, to work closely, to do something different? Was it more about developing a prototype you could take to full life cycle and get released? What did you want to get out of it at the end?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. Thank you. So what we wanted to do was to make the people at Lab42 come together and like make them do something. The whole purpose of it was never go to full development. This was the first time we were running a studio jam. Of course, like if we wanted to go to full development, yes, of course we do. But I think it was more like of our first run at having a studio jam and trying to understand if it worked, if it would not work, and take the learnings for the next one. If I would like to see that happening in the next studio jam, yes. But it's not up to me. But I think it was more about the people and making the people come together. Especially this was run during the hard times of the pandemic, and everyone was working from home remotely. I think no one was back at the studio at that point either. So it was more a form of making sure people were connected again and reaching out and giving their space for them.
What a great thing to do! Amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hi there. It's a two-part question, really. What kind of percentage of the company as a whole participated in the jam? And did you get any data from those that didn't participate in why they didn't engage?
So for the people that didn't participate, I did get some data, but not as much as I would. Because the people that didn't want to participate were really like, no, I'm not going to answer anything right now. From talking to some of them, it was just like, I couldn't be bothered, or like I have something to do afterwards. So it's just really, it's not my kind of thing to do, which we also need to respect. The first part was
just as a percentage of the whole studio, kind of how many actually participated.
I think we had 26 participants, so it was a lot. Lab42 right now is 50. 64. I think we were 50 something at that time. I'm not sure. So it was a big percentage of the studio. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just asking a producer-specific question, I guess.
Yeah.
With everybody working from home, how did you kind of run the project? Was it on like a tool or anything, or did you do it kind of?
So as you know, we all use Teams. But yeah, pretty much the main thing was making sure people were checking in daily and talking to each other. These were not like regular daily stand-ups whatsoever. These were like daily meetings where people would go after their core hours and just sit in for half an hour and talk to each other and decide like from an art perspective we want to do this, and have like small workshops during that half an hour. Same for programming, same for design. Whatever time people needed, I would book a slot for 15 minutes. Usually it would run like half an hour to an hour. It was just people discussing and trying to help each other formulate the project. Other than the daily catch-ups, every Monday, playing the build together, making sure everyone knew what was there, and opening pools and discussion for people to put like, I think this is wrong, I think this is right, and going from there. So that's mainly what we did. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, thank you for this presentation. This was very insightful, and I'm super excited because we are going to work in the next project together. My question to you would be like, you said that there were people who kept kind of adding to your team of the studio jam. Were there also situations or times when people kind of dropped out midway that maybe for XYZ reasons, because they are more involved in other projects, and that's taking the time off? And how, if that was the situation, how did you manage that?
So one of the first things I wanted to know when we did the first initial survey was, do you want to participate in the game jam? Do you not want to participate in the game jam? I still don't know. The majority of people that said they didn't know or that they wouldn't participate would still come in to help and support the other people inside of the jam. Did we had people dropping? Yes, we did. Mainly it was due to too much work, and they had like other projects coming up and they were like, I can't do this right now. I don't think we had like a low engagement throughout or someone dropping because, you know what, I really don't want to do this. But yeah, I think that kind of answers. How did we manage it? It was really good. We had like a specific person that is right here that was just jumping in. Fen, I'm talking about Fen. Fen was very much going into every meeting with the art team. Fen didn't want to participate in a game jam, but he was there like every meeting, just like to, hey, from a tech art perspective, I think this, or maybe this might help, which was really, really cool. So, and like Fen, we had a few other people in the studio that did that. And I think that helped other people feeling more safe and secure to know whatever they were doing, really. So yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I'll go next, just because of the microphone. Oh, there we go. Yeah, obviously, I've got a two-pronged question, really. It's a bit more technical, more because you've inspired me. Actually, would quite like to do a game jam now.
Okay, cool.
Good use of my learning days. I'd be curious to know which engine you decided on, and if there was kind of a vetting process, because obviously people have preferences between Unity, Unreal, maybe something else.
Yeah.
And then the second part would be how you handled check-in and bugs as well. Because it's such in such a concise time frame.
Yeah, thank you. So in terms of the engine, we did a full poll for pretty much people to say, what engine do you want to use? Yo, pretty much everyone voted for Unity. So that's what we went for. Most of this stuff was done by votes, so people would put thumbs up on a post or something like that, and yay. So we went for Unity. That was the engine that the team would want to use by a large percentage. I think it was like 80 to 20 against Unreal. So it was an easy choice in that sense. Again, all of this was made prior the Studio Jam actually started, right? So we already knew, and when people would start the Studio Jam, they already knew the engine, they already knew the game they would be working on during the next month. So that helps understanding and for people to decide before the event actually starts if they want to be part of it or not, which is really nice. In terms of tasks and bugs, what we did was, because at the time Jira was not working, I think we were in a transition between Lab 42 and Sumo's Jira stuff. And what we did was just using Teams itself, because Teams has like a to-do thing. So we created the regular stuff that we do. Like we had the backlog and then a to-do column, and we would select like, right, this week, this is what we're gonna do based on that meeting that we'd have on Monday. So I would break down the tasks for everyone and with everyone in the team, and we would use the regular columns like for to-do, assign them to people, the regular process. If we had a bug, they would go to those teams. We had different channels for each of the teams. So we had a design, an art, a programming one, and each one of those had like that to-do thing. So you wouldn't see the design tasks, you wouldn't see the art tasks unless you really wanted to see them, just to avoid cluttering, which is really important as well. You don't want people to be overwhelmed by everything that is happening. So yes, one per discipline, and people would go there. If they wanted to check the others, they could go there freely as well. So yeah.
That's really good, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
And just in case anybody doesn't know, I'm David Dino, Business Development Manager over at the group, I guess, if you want to call it now. But I was wondering kind of like what the percentage was of people who kind of went cross-discipline and kind of stuck with that, moving from, let's say, design to art, so on and so forth. One of the things that, at least when we run the game jams, especially like the last one it was a one-button game jam for special effect, we saw a good number of people like from IT do design stuff and everything like that, which was fantastic. And they also got mentored as well too. But I was wondering, in your own perspective, what did you do to promote that within the studio, if that was something that they wanted to do? Because I think one of the cool things about being within the group, or just being in Sumo in general, is that there are a lot of opportunities to learn and jump different disciplines as well too. And I've seen that several times, as long as I've been here. So it's been cool to see. And obviously game jams are a great way of doing that for people.
Yeah. Great question again. So I think the people that jumped across disciplines, I think it was like about 5%. So it's not much. But those people were really engaging, which was really cool. So I really can stress like how proud I am of seeing like programmers doing art and music and all that kind of stuff. Lab 42 has a lot of programmers, right? So it is really interesting to see that happening. I think it didn't happen more like in the other disciplines. I think it was mostly on the programming side, exactly because our base, it's mostly programming. Still, like, yeah, their engagement was, I think the people that were doing that, like the few programmers that were doing that, I think it was 4 of them or 3 of them, they were like just really engaging. And every day they were like, how do I do the music for this? You know, and putting all of that in, which is really, really nice. And they were eager for feedback more than any other team members, which was also really interesting. I don't know if that answered your question, Dave.
I think that was great because, again, you kind of want to be able to, I guess, promote that growth in some form or fashion. And I don't know if, again, it all depends on who's really available, but I always felt like if we could always have some senior just available for that, you know, that feedback, regardless of whether or not they're involved in the game jam itself. You know, just, again, having that somebody oversee to a certain extent or just give that advice, I think it really helps, you know, those who want to try something else really push forward in that direction.
100%. And I think like one of the things that was really important that I didn't mention is in my presentation was the way we communicated what we wanted to do with the rest of the team. It was always like quite open, big post pretty much saying, hey, the action topics, and if you want to participate on this, this is what you need to do. And it was always quite open in the sense of, even if you are doing this, this is an opportunity to learn something new. So it was always like from a curious place and from, you know, hey, you want to try something new, this is your opportunity to do so. So yeah. Cool.
Thank you.
Hi. In terms of your goal, it seems like you absolutely nailed it. You wanted to bring people together, judging by the results of the survey afterwards. Everyone loved it. Everyone wants to do it again. So I'm interested to know, what were the things that brought people together, and which of those, if any, have you been able to bring into day-to-day production to try and keep that spirit and that engagement going throughout the team?
So I think the first part to that answer is I'm a really person-focused approach producer, right? What this means for me specifically is that I usually use my processes around the people, as I said in the beginning of the presentation. Did I bring, I think I brought some of my day-to-day approaches to the Studio Jam, and I've learned some few more that I could bring to my day-to-day. One of the things was, I think I'm quite a democratic person in the sense of I'm always like, hey, can you vote here? Can you vote there? Sometimes that's not good. I think the game jam accelerated my understanding of that and the importance of making the right questions back above everything else. If you are, you know, because if you open it up completely, you will end up like with this huge brainstorm of things that sometimes will not help you at all, and you will end up like with a big scope of things. Exactly. So sometimes it's more important to ask the right questions back and take the time to reflect on it, and then prepare yourself for the right questions to be answered back, so that people can also focus, oh, okay, I see where we're going now. I think that was one of my biggest learnings. And I think I listen a lot to what people have to say to me in terms of feedback, but also using data for it, and base my approach on data, I think it started with the Studio Jam as well. I think I always go with my heart. My heart tells me this, and I need to speak to this person. And after the Studio Jam, I still have that, but I also use the data to go with it. So it's kind of a combination of both now, which really helps me understand what people want. So yeah, thank you.
If you were to redo this Studio Jam, what would be one thing that you would do differently?
One thing. I think making the pitch back to people based on their core pillars and what they really want to do, and give some structure to it, and maybe some input from senior design people at Lab 42 would be my main thing. I would go for that, because if we did have that kind of input, I think this game could have been completely different. And maybe, who knows, it could be in a different stage. So if there's a second Lab 42 Studio Jam, one of the things I would like to is to have like senior design input on it as soon as we have like okay, we know these are the pillars. Maybe we can put like some setting options out there for voting. Maybe we can do this. Still use the same kind of service in the sense of use the data too, but use the designer and the senior level designer input to make sure you are building the thing, and again, putting the right questions back to the team afterwards. But at least it will be more structured, because I think otherwise, people want to do something fun because they are also giving their free time, which is completely okay. But if we want this to move and maybe go to an approach where maybe this is something that we want to go to full development, we do need a different approach. So it really depends on what we want to do as a studio and what's the goal of the next game jam. I hope that answered it. Thank you.
So, given that you don't really know, people are allowed to drop in and drop out of the game jam when they want, you don't really know what resources you've got for the coming week. What kind of production process changes did you have to be able to make when you don't know what the scope of what you can accomplish in a week?
Yeah, that was a really tough one for me. I think making sure on those weekly catch-ups when we were trying to understand what we wanted or how we wanted to pivot the game, understanding that most of those people will not be there was my key focus. So I was constantly de-scoping when I was speaking to people, in a sense of, I don't know if this is going to happen. So when people start talking to me about an AI system where the clients can check in and they have like, oh, they can go to the bar, they can go here and there. They said like, we can do this in a week. And it was something really simple for them. I always thought like, this is going to take the 4 weeks. I don't believe this. And then people were like dropping in and doing a little bit more, and maybe they swapped around and said, no, I actually want to work on that. So for me, it was really like penning them out even more than what I do in projects, and making sure they were de-scoped enough so that we could do them somehow. And I think that's how we ended up with that prototype as well. So yeah, thank you, Sai. Anyone else? Ed. Oh my God.
Do you think you do it for a month again?
What?
It's a long time doing it for a month. Definitely.
I think it depends. I think the stars need to be aligned with the studio resources and the projects, and it depends on the state of the projects, where we are as a studio and all that kind of stuff. Would I run it for a month? It really depends on what we want to do and the objectives. Again, if it is to unite the team, maybe not a month. If it is to do something that we want to move forwards, maybe a month would be good again. So it really depends. But yeah, thank you. And yeah.
So by the time you got to the retrospective, had the team reverted back to the core pillars that you had at the very beginning, or were they all in on their murders?
That's a great question. I think like it started, so when we started doing the project and everyone was like, yeah, this is going to be really gory and you want to drag the bodies and make sure, you leave a lot of blood and clean it up. And yeah, as we went through the prototype, everyone's like, we don't think this works at all. We think this should be like more of a managing sim where you have like this kind of instincts where you can kill people, but you can also not do it. And you would give the choice to the player, but making it really hard not to, it would have this huge benefit. But the game started to pivot a lot on its core. It was not like a casual drop-in arcade, kill people, go out. It started to be more like, what can we build out of this that is kind of more management related and can go more into the sim world than anything else, but bring a twist to it, which was also really interesting to see. So yeah, people were completely moving away from murdering at the end. So yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah.
Why do you think it pivoted to murder sim versus the pillars that you clearly laid out for everybody, or at least everybody decided to go with those pillars, and then all of a sudden, nah.
So I talk about this, okay? This is pure speculation, okay? My pure speculation. I don't have the data to prove this. I think during the pandemic, everyone was looking for like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I do not support that in any way, shape, or form. No, I think people were looking for something different, and they wanted to do something that would be fun for them to engage with. And then when they saw this idea was like completely different from everything that was submitted. And people were like, oh my God, yes, why not? This is completely different, let's do it. I think naturally, because their core values were not aligned with the game, and the mechanics were clunky and a lot of things. I think things started to naturally change to what they actually wanted to do. But yeah, I think it was a mix of those two things. So yeah. Anyone else? Evelyn. Wait,
basically Game Jam.
microphone.
Yeah. Sorry. So Game Jam is considered to be this free-flowing form where everything comes out of a chaos. How did the team react to your efforts to steer the whole thing towards a common goal? Did they react positively, or how in general did they react to that?
I think everyone engaged and everyone knew in what they were engaging when the Studio Jam started. I don't think, again, because we had gone through the full voting, like submitting, voting process and all that, people knew what they were gonna go into. Compared to a game jam, I did a ton of them in the past, and it would be really hard to manage like 20 odd people at peak on a Studio Jam, like with no like process in place. Even though I tried to run it like as freely as I could, like it would be nonsense. It would be chaos, complete chaos. How did the team react? I'm not sure. I think that's a good question to ask them, to be fair. I think I did my best to keep it open, and that people would feel like, yes, this is where we're going and this is how the decisions are being made. But that's a great question, and I think it's a good one to put back to the team and maybe get the data for the next presentation next year. Thank you, Lynn. Yeah. No?
When's the next one?
I don't know. We need to work on that. I've been thinking about it, actually. Okay, cool. If that's it, thank you all so much.